Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be reacting to another video by Swagkage. This one is called Explaining the Rinnegan. Now, just to clear up something, I think I said in the previous Swagkage reaction vid that I did, where he talked about, where it was called I do not like Dragon Ball Super. I know I said in that video that after that we're going to be reacting to another video that he did talk about Dragon Ball Super, and don't worry, we will be reacting to that video. However, I thought that we should probably watch this video first, because it's a lot shorter. This one's only 60 minutes long, and that other video is about 42 minutes long. So it's gonna be a long video, at least my reaction to it, because you guys know that I like to pause every now and then so I could give you guys my thoughts. And because also I want to try to not talk over him so you guys don't miss what he's saying in the video. But also another reason why I wanted to watch this video is because I know that there's a lot of misconception going on about, or some misconceptions about the Rinnegan when it comes to the Naruto fandom. Like, a lot of people have some, again, like they have some, there's some misinformation going on, and I'm hoping that this video will help explain that. But at the same time, another reason why I want to watch this video is because I'm hoping this video will explain to some people why there are a lot of fans in the Boruto fandom who are not happy with how Sasuke specifically was treated in the, I guess you could say, the Boruto era after he got the Rinnegan from the Sage of Six Paths, because the Rinnegan has a lot of abilities, and a lot of the, I guess you could say, a lot of the excuses that a lot of people have for why Sasuke doesn't use the Rinnegan's abilities, because, you know, it uses up a lot of chakra and all that stuff. First of all, that's always been a BS excuse, and even if that's the case, this video will explain to you, at least one part of it will explain why that weakness shouldn't even exist in the first place. And there's also some other abilities afforded to the Rinnegan that a lot of people are wondering, like, how come we never see Sasuke use any of these abilities? Now, again, I know one of the explanations that people have, or one of the reasons people give, is that he never really has a need to do it. And you're right, for most opponents, Sasuke doesn't need to waste his time using the Rinnegan's abilities, but considering he went up against someone like Ishiki, you would think that he would utilize the full abilities of the Rinnegan, because this is an opponent that requires you to not hold back any of your abilities at all. And yet we saw, if you read the manga, during his fight with Ishiki, and even in a case his fight with Jigen, he still did not use any of the abilities of the Rinnegan, and people are like, they're wondering why. And I'm hoping this video will open their eyes as to why that's the case. So let's go ahead and watch this video in 3, 2, 1.
Looks like I'm talking about the Rinnegan today. So alright, the Rinnegan. Where do I even begin with this thing? There's quite a lot to talk about here. I guess a place better than any other to start out with would be the name. Rinnegan translates to Samsara, as the prefix Rinne is the Japanese word for Samsara. Now, for those of you who don't know what Samsara is, it is not a Japanese concept, though it is an Eastern one. Samsara refers to the process of reincarnation or rebirth, and it has its roots in many Indian religions, particularly Buddhism and Hinduism. Now, the Rinnegan's ties to this concept run deeper than just in its name. Each of the paths from the Rinnegan's 6 paths technique are...
You know, I'm not gonna lie, sorry, I want to pause for a second, because like I said, I don't want to talk over him, but one thing that I love that writers do is when they take inspiration from, you know, real world, I guess it's a real world mythologies, and they take them and they use them to create something in whatever world that they're creating, and they apply it in a way that feels so creative. Like, for example, he said, the Indians concept of from Indian mythology, the concept of reincarnation. Kishimoto took that and he used it to create this dojutsu, which has abilities that are in some way inspired by these 6 cycles of reincarnation, and we'll get to that. I always love it whenever writers do this.
They're named after one of the 6 Samsaric realms of reincarnation. The strength, abilities, and artillery of each of the paths are directly related to whichever realm they're named after, but I will get into that later. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and discuss how the Rinnegan is acquired. So to explain this, I've got to go way back to the time of Kaguya and the Sage of Six Paths. When Kaguya first ate the fruit of the Shinju, she was granted chakra, and a lot of it at that. As a matter of fact, she was given all the chakra, like literally all of it. And with this chakra came a multitude of abilities. Now, one of these abilities was called the Rinne Sharingan, and it came in the form of a third eye that manifested on her forehead. Kaguya's son, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, who is better known as the Sage of Six Paths, inherited the Rinnegan from his mother, but not the Rinne Sharingan. Now, Hagoromo later gained access to the Rinne Sharingan when he became the Jinchuriki of the Tin Tails, but he didn't inherit it directly from his mother. The best explanation for why this may have happened is probably just that Kaguya's chakra was diluted and split as it continued to be passed down through her family. This is supported by the fact that the Rinnegan and the Byakugan were split up between Kaguya's kids, Hagoromo and Hamura, and furthermore by the fact that one of Hagoromo's sons, Indra, inherited the Sharingan and not the Rinnegan. Anyway, this finally brings me to the actual process of acquiring the Rinnegan. Now, there are multiple methods of gaining the Rinnegan, but they're all really,
which include inheriting it,
really difficult.
Which if I'm being honest, I do think is kind of a smart move by Kishimoto, because if he did make it in a way which you can inherit the Rinnegan from like a parent or something, then there would be a lot of other people with the Rinnegan, and the Rinnegan on its own is pretty fucking broken. So if you had a multitude, like a number of people with Rinnegan, then yeah, you have a problem.
Cool. So the first method is to eat the fruit of the Shinju tree. However, that's impossible, since the Shinju tree merged with Kaguya and became the Tin Tails before being split into 9 separate tailed beasts who were eventually sealed into 9 different people. The second method is to be directly approached by the Sage of Six Paths and receive the yin half of his chakra, but, well, that's not gonna happen for most people. Another known way to acquire the Rinnegan is to recreate the chakra of the Sage of Six Paths, and it's possible to do this by merging the chakra of his 2 sons, Indra and Ashura. Since the respective...
let's pause right here for a second. Listen to what he said. You have to combine the chakra of his 2 sons, Indra and Ashura. Specifically, you have to be, I guess you could say, being a reincarnate of Indra and Ashura are kind of necessary. Like, because I've seen a lot of people say that, because I remember seeing someone say, if Sasuke married Karin, who is a member of the Uzumaki clan, and it was stated that the Uzumakis are also descendants of the Senju, the descendants of Ashura, who ended up becoming called the Senju. A lot of people would have said that, well, if that's the case, then Sarada would have inherited the Rinnegan, because it would have been a combination of the Uchiha and the Senju DNA, and the Uchiha are descendants of Indra and the Senju are descendants of Ashura. But again, that's not how it works. You have to be a reincarnate. Again, it requires combining the chakra of Indra and Ashura. And the reason why it worked for Madara is because Madara was the reincarnate of Indra, and Hashirama was a previous incarnation of Ashura. Okay, so just to make that clear, like it's not about just, like, say for example someone could take like Sasuke's blood or his some skin cells or whatever, and take Hashirama's skin cells or whatever, and then apply it to him. Then I guess maybe that could work, but no, I'm sorry, I don't think that's how it works.
Chakras of Indra and Ashura have reincarnated into various people throughout the history of the Naruto universe. It's also possible to awaken the Rinnegan by merging the chakras of 2 of Indra and Ashura's reincarnates. It is worth noting, however, that the results will not be immediate, as when Madara Uchiha did this by combining his chakra with Hashirama Senju's, it took a good few decades for his Rinnegan to actually awaken. Also, acquiring the Rinnegan might require you to have the Sharingan as a prerequisite, since it's implied a couple times throughout the series that the Rinnegan is the successor to the Sharingan. And
that's true, which is why, like I said, like it's not enough to, let's say a random person were to get a hold of Sasuke's DNA and Naruto's DNA, since both of them are the reincarnates of Indra and Ashura, and then just graft them into his body, and then eventually he'll awaken the Rinnegan, because that person would not be in possession of a Sharingan unless he stole some and then transplanted them into their eyes. Although even then, I don't think it would work, because again, like we've seen before, that when you transplant, like for example, Sharingan eyes, it doesn't work the same as someone who was naturally born with them. Like for example, a member of the Uchiha clan. because again, like look at what happened with Kakashi. Like he was given the Sharingan by Obito, but he was never able to turn it off, which explains why he was never capable of fully utilizing his abilities, because the Sharingan was always active, and because of that, it constantly uses up a lot of chakra. And so even if you were to transplant the Sharingan into your eyes, like again, that on its own would drain a lot of your chakra. But if you were to, let's say, transplant Senju DNA onto your body, yeah, that might solve the chakra problem, but at the same time, the Rinnegan would always be active, and that's again that's a problem for someone else, because like as we've seen in the series, like the Rinnegan is incredibly powerful. Like even Obito, who on his own was pretty damn powerful, and with even him with Hashirama cells implanted onto his body, which made him incredibly stronger. Even he said that he could barely handle the power of just one Rinnegan. Like, so the Rinnegan are no joke.
As with any other dojutsu, it's possible to acquire a Rinnegan through an eye transplant, but, well, for this to work, you have to find somebody
Someone would need to have
a
one.
Rinnegan and doesn't want it.
Yeah,
On top of that,
like-
transplanted Rinnegan aren't all that easy to
Like, why the fuck would I give this up?
Deciding who the next carrier of his Rinnegan should be, Madara specifically chose a member of the Uzumaki clan.
Right.
And this is important because Uzumaki are touted as some of the most durable, tenacious people out there, and they also have a notably high amount of chakra. This was no coincidence either. Madara wanted to make sure that the person inheriting his Rinnegan was going to have enough chakra to use it and be durable enough to use it. This is further supported by the fact that Obito, another Uchiha, flat out said that he couldn't physically handle the power of both of Madara's Rinnegan, and as a result, he was forced to hide one of them away. So yeah, getting the Rinnegan isn't very easy at all.
Which is why, like I said, like it's probably better to, like, the reason why I think that Sasuke would be different is because he, like Madara, was a reincarnation of Ashura. So I think that's probably why, like, Sasuke is someone who would be able to handle the power of both Rinnegans, because he is, again, like the reincarnate of Indra, just like Madara was, and Madara was able to handle the power of both Rinnegan. In fact, so much so that Kishimoto had to weaken him because of the plot. But anyway, the Rinnegan is no joke. Like, let's just say that.
However, for anyone who can manage to obtain the Rinnegan, it's well worth going through all the trouble to do it. The
True.
Rinnegan is incredibly powerful. Some of the Rinnegan's lesser abilities include the ability to see chakra, the ability to create black chakra receivers that can transmit...
Which is something that, again, we never see Sasuke use. And again, a lot of people ask the question, why doesn't he? It's because... We'll get to that.
Chakra and even control people. And Nagato even showed the ability to master all ninjutsu that he was taught, covering all 5 basic nature transformations and yang release. Oh yeah, and keep in mind, Nagato was just 10 years old when he did this. But without question, the most powerful technique that the Rinnegan provides is the 6 paths technique. And now, calling this a technique isn't really accurate, because the 6 paths technique is more like a family of techniques than an individual one. Now, as you'd expect...
And also, sorry, I just want to point out, let me just bring that up. Something he said I thought was very, very interesting. Listen to what he said.
Formations and yang release.
And yang release, specifically. So it's stated that if you have the Rinnegan, you can master yang release. Now, why is this important? It's because Sasuke, think about this, Sasuke gained the Rinnegan, and as a result, he was able to gain access to all types of nature transformations. Like, all of them. Fire, wind, lightning, water, earth, all of them. And including, let me keep this in mind, including yin, and he also had a yin release, I think, being a member of the Uchiha, and he also received the yin half of the Sage of Six Paths chakra. Now, why is that important? Is because he would have all 5 nature transformations, including yin and yang release. Sasuke should have all of them. And now, why is this important? Is because it was stated that anyone who has them, if they were to combine them, they would be able to create the truth-seeking orbs. Okay, now the reason why, I know a lot of people probably, would probably say that you probably need to also include Sage Chakra, but I don't think that was ever specifically stated. But if you don't include that, Sasuke on his own should have been able to create truth-seeking orbs, and yet we never see him do that. Now, granted, it wasn't just with Sasuke. We also saw this with Naruto. He had truth-seeking orbs when he first gained the power, when he first gained 6 Path Sage mode, and yet for some reason we never see him use it ever again. Like he used it in the battle with Kaguya, he used it in the fight with Sasuke, but we never see him use it ever again, including now during the Boruto era. And like there was never really a proper explanation as to why that's the case. The only explanation I could kind of come up with is either Kishimoto forgot, or he realized that if they were able to do that, then it would make them pretty OP. And unfortunately, I can't include any tension in the story if Naruto and Sasuke were to again use their full capabilities. So I have to weaken them purposely in order for there to be any tension. And it's just this has been a problem with Kishimoto's writing for years. I know a lot of people will probably say that this is just in the Boruto era, but the truth is no. Like this was available for long before Boruto was even a thing.
Oh yeah, and keep in mind, Nagato was just 10 years old when he did this. But without question, the most powerful technique that the Rinnegan provides is the Six Paths technique. And now, calling this a technique isn't really accurate, because the Six Paths technique is more like a family of techniques than an individual one. Now, as you'd expect with a name like the Six Paths technique, there are 6 different branches which all of the abilities granted by the technique are categorized under. These branches are more properly referred to as paths, and each of them are named after one of the 6 Samsaric realms of reincarnation, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. These 6 paths include the Diva path, the Asura path, the human path, the animal path, the Preta path, and the Naraka path. Now, I have no idea whether this was intentional or not, but the hierarchy of the 6 realms of Samsara seems to be reflected in the hierarchy of the 6 paths of the Rinnegan. The heavenly realms, Diva and Asura, are the most powerful paths of the Rinnegan, and the hellish realms, Naraka and Preta, are the least powerful paths of the Rinnegan. Now, that said, the Naraka path and the Preta path are still pretty OP.
Yeah.
The Naraka path grants a Rinnegan wielder the ability to summon the King of Hell. And with the King of Hell, the summoner can interrogate others and restore injuries. Like most aspects of the Rinnegan, the Naraka path is influenced heavily by Eastern mythology, as Naraka is pretty much...
Okay, now this is, again, the reason why this is important. Let's go back for a second. Listen to what he says.
Interrogate others and restore injuries.
Restore any injuries. So at any point during any fight, and especially during the fight with Ishiki, whenever Sasuke got injured, can you explain to me how he didn't just summon this, heal his injuries, and then go back to the fight? Or why didn't he do that with Naruto? It's just...
Like most aspects of the Rinnegan, the Naraka path is influenced heavily by Eastern mythology, as Naraka is pretty much the Hindu equivalent of hell, and in Naraka resides a lovely fellow by the name of Yama. Now, Yama is the king of hell, or the lord of justice, and people are brought before him to explain their sins so he can think of a proper punishment for them. Now, if the person brought before Yama lies to him, he will rip out their tongue as a form of punishment. This is pretty much exactly what the King of Hell does in the series. If the Naraka path asks a person a question and they refuse to answer or lie to him, the King of Hell will rip out their tongue and effectively kill them immediately. The King of Hell also has the ability to heal any injuries of a body he ingests. Now, while putting your body inside of this thing's mouth is probably pretty intimidating, there's no need to worry, because he flawlessly heals all injuries. Like,
that's true.
You could go in with a distorted body, missing an arm and a leg, and you...
Specifically missing an arm. Who does that remind you of? Again, just...
would come out just fine. The Preta path is capable of absorbing and thereby nullifying ninjutsu in any form. As a result, it is often used for long-range defense, but it can be used for taijutsu blitzing, since the Preta path allows for chakra absorption through physical contact with another person. The ability to absorb chakra is likely influenced by the Preta creature's nature.
Now, keep in mind what he just said, absorb chakra. So for anyone out there who says that like again, the Rinnegan uses up too much chakra, and that's why Sasuke is always out of chakra. No, that makes no goddamn sense. Sasuke with this ability should never have that problem ever again, and it's one of the reasons why the Rinnegan is such a dangerous ability, because anyone who has it should never have that weakness ever again, because he or she literally has an ability that allows them to absorb any chakra that they need. And again, if you want an example, look at what happened with Nagato. Nagato, when he was brought back with the Edo Tensei, looked exactly like he did when he died. He looked like an old man. But when he started absorbing chakra from B, and then Naruto, he went back to looking as young as he started. Like seriously, again, you cannot tell me that Sasuke had never once thought of this. Again, like if you're out there and you're trying to use that whole chakra excuse, Rinnegan used up too much chakra excuse, stop it, because it never held anyway. Okay, he was weakened because of the plot. Okay, it's because the plot needed him to be weak so the story could happen.
With another person. The ability to absorb chakra is likely influenced by the Preta creatures native to the Preta realm in Buddhism. Preta are humanoids that suffer from a perpetual feeling of hunger and thirst that they will never be able to satisfy, and Naruto could have very easily symbolized this in the form of the Preta path's constant hunger for chakra. And whoo boy, this is where we get to the really OP stuff. Coming up next is the human path, which allows a Rinnegan wielder to literally rip out a person's soul. It is primarily...
Okay, this one I can kind of understand why Sasuke would never use, because it is pretty inhumane. But then again, I could understand him like wanting to. Yeah, I can understand him probably not wanting to use this against anyone, even if they are criminals, because again, it is pretty inhumane. Even if it's for interrogation techniques, I will admit though, it does kind of suck that we never see him even consider using this ability. It just kind of sucks.
The process of ripping out somebody's soul allows a Rinnegan wielder to read that person's mind, but this also doubles as an instant kill ability, since ripping out somebody's soul kills them immediately. The animal path grants a Rinnegan wielder access to some of the most powerful summons in the Naruto universe. These summons,
which is something again we never see Sasuke use, and it's just
multi-headed dog.
Again, like when you get reminded of what the Rinnegan could do, and the fact that we never see him use any of these abilities other than, Amino Tejikara, it's just it kind of sucks.
That sprouts more heads every time it takes damage. A giant panda that can be used to shield a Rinnegan wielder from just about any damage. A giant drill-beaked bird that the Rinnegan wielder can fly upon. A giant chameleon, a giant ox, a giant rhino, a giant crab. And the animal path even allows a person to summon other people, as shown when Nagato used it to summon the other paths of pain in addition.
Actually, now that I think about it, when it comes to this ability, why didn't Sasuke use it to summon Naruto when they got separated after their fight with Jigen? Like, why did they need to wait for someone to go there in order to bring you? Or is it limited because it was in another dimension? But then again, when you summon creatures, they're from technically another place. It's just, whenever you think about this, you realize, yeah, Kishimoto definitely made the Rinnegan too fucking OP, and he had to weaken it on purpose just so like other characters could have a chance. It's just it sucks. It really sucks, man.
On top of that, the animals summoned by the animal path seem to be completely immortal, as even if they are killed, they can just be summoned again pretty much immediately afterwards. And furthermore, a user of the animal path can see through the eyes of all of the creatures that they summon, making it nigh impossible to attack the summoner from a blind spot. The animal path is likely the most direct reference to the concept of Samsara, as in Buddhism, animals who served humans were doomed to be reincarnated into animals again, which is flawlessly represented in the immortality of the animals that the Rinnegan allows a person to summon. The Asura path allows a person to sprout 4 extra arms and fire fucking missiles and laser beams. Seriously, the Asura path is absolutely ridiculous. It gives the user access to a bunch of different weapons, including the aforementioned missiles and laser beams, on top of a bunch of extra weapons like blades, rocket arms, jet propulsion, and a bunch of other stuff. Additionally, the Asura path grants the user the ability to sprout 2 extra faces, which of course increases that user's field of vision by quite a bit. The Asura path takes inspiration from both Buddhism and Hinduism, as its 3-headed, 6-armed appearance is a reference to a common depiction of Asura in Buddhism, and the Asura people in Hinduism had an ability called Astra that allowed them to use magical equivalents to modern-day missiles and such. Among the 6 paths, the one that is inarguably the most powerful is the Diva path, which grants a Rinnegan wielder control over attractive and repulsive
which is, again, another ability that we never see Sasuke utilize in battle, even though it would have been really, really useful.
Techniques: Shinra Tensei, Bansho Tenin, and Chibaku Tensei. Shinra Tensei is the manifestation of the Rinnegan's ability to manipulate repulsive forces and is an omnidirectional wave of force that pushes things back with a variable amount of range and power. The size and destructive capacity of a Shinra Tensei wave are directly proportional
Right.
to the amount of chakra poured into it.
So again, for anyone out there who says that these abilities use up too much chakra, no. It again, Sasuke could pour even a little bit of chakra and just create like this small force to either push or pull someone. And again, it highly depends on how much chakra Sasuke uses. So even if he had a little bit, if he just poured enough in order to just smartly utilize it, or intelligently utilize it in battle. And again, like, it's just, I've always hated that excuse. Like, it was so fucking stupid.
The exact scope of the possible size and strength of the Shinra Tensei isn't known. Nagato has made the technique into everything from a small barrier that lightly pushes enemies away to a catastrophic wave of force capable of destroying all of Konoha. The only downside to Shinra Tensei is that users must wait at least 5 seconds between uses, so it can't be used repeatedly. This cooldown timer will be even longer with more chakra-intensive uses of Shinra Tensei as well. But nonetheless, the technique remains an indispensable asset for both offense and defense. Bansho Tenin is the complete polar opposite of Shinra Tensei. It is a unidirectional wave of force that pulls people and objects toward the user as opposed to pushing them away from them. Now, I don't know what the exact range of the technique is, but I do know that it can be used to attract multiple targets at once. Additionally, it has the same 5-second cooldown timer as Shinra Tensei does, and I don't think it's possible to increase this timer since Bansho Tenin has a static power and range. The next ability, Chibaku Tensei, is easily the most powerful ability granted by the Rinnegan. Like Bansho Tenin, it makes use of the Rinnegan's ability to control attractive forces, but on a completely different scale. The technique allows the user to create a black gravity sphere that they can release into the air freely. Once they do, everything nearby, with the exception of the user of the technique, will be pulled into the gravity sphere, which includes people, objects, pieces of the planet. This will continue to happen until enough is clung on to the black gravity sphere, which will eventually result in the creation of a small planetoid. Characters with the chakra of the Sage of Six Paths have shown the ability to create more than one gravity sphere at once. When Madara did this, he used it to create multiple planetoids that he immediately dropped on Naruto and Sasuke during their battle. And when Sasuke did it, he used it to seal all 9 tailed beasts inside of the planetoids created by Chibaku Tensei. Nagato has also shown the ability to use telekinesis through the Diva Path in ways that are clearly distinct from Shinra Tensei and Bansho Tenin. For example, he managed to lift Hinata off of the ground before throwing her back into it with enough force to nearly kill her. On top of that, he displays the ability to fly, which no other Rinnegan user has been able to manage. So I can only assume that Nagato's experience with the Rinnegan allowed him to use telekinesis to levitate in the air. That's just a hypothesis though, so don't take it as 100% fact. Also, despite the name of the Six Paths technique, there is a 7th path that users of the Rinnegan have access to, called the Outer Path. With the Outer Path, wielders of the Rinnegan can summon the demonic statue of the Outer Path, also referred to as the Gedo statue, create black receivers that they can transmit their chakra.
They can also manipulate the chains of the Gedo, which disrupt the chakra of those that make contact with. These chains are even powerful enough to bind and suppress the tail,
through, which they can use to control up to 6 different bodies at the same time. As a matter of fact, Nagato used this technique to control...
Which again, when you think about this technique, specifically says disrupt the chakra of those that make contact with. Again, did he never think about using this against Ishiki? At all? Did he ever think about using this against him? But no, let's just come up with that stupid chakra excuse again.
That they can transmit their chakra through, which they can use to control up to 6 different bodies at the same time. As a matter of fact, Nagato used this technique to control up to 6 corpses at once and dubbed them his 6 Paths of Pain. It's also possible to distribute the powers of one of the first 6 paths of the 6 Paths technique to each of the bodies being controlled, though this will cause the person controlling the individual bodies to lose access to the powers themselves. On the flip side, it is possible to control up to 6 bodies at once without giving them access to the powers of the Rinnegan, as shown when Obito controlled 6 Jinchuriki at the same time and allowed them to keep all of their original jutsu without giving them access to any of the Rinnegan's abilities. In either case, the person controlling the bodies is able to share vision with the bodies being controlled, greatly increasing their field of vision and allowing them to dominate the battlefield by eliminating any blind spots. Users of the Outer Path can also use the Samsara of Heavenly Life technique, which allows them to bring 1 or more people back from the dead, said, this technique is distinctly different from the Edo Tensei technique, as it actually returns the soul of the person being revived to the realm of the living. However, more often than not, use of this technique will cost a Rinnegan wielder their life, so it's not used very often. Like the Mangekyo Sharingan, the Rinnegan also seems to give each person that awakens it personalized abilities. Madara possessed the ability to project clones of himself into the invisible world of Limbo. Attacks from these clones look like nothing more than invisible acts of force, and it wasn't until Naruto and Sasuke gained 6 paths powers that they were able to tell that the clones were there at all. Sasuke's Rinnegan allows him to switch places with objects that are within his field of vision, though his Rinnegan is distinctly different from Madara's in the Sage of 6 Paths, since it is lined with Tomo similar to a Sharingan. Momoshiki's Rinnegan allowed him to absorb ninjutsu through one palm and then release same jutsu from the other palm. I'm not sure what the abilities of...
And also remember, like, he can release a stronger version of the techniques that he absorbs, which is one thing that makes his Rinnegan so dangerous.
Kaguroma or Kaguya were, as they were never shown, but I'm sure they were probably pretty cool. Speaking of Kaguya, as I mentioned earlier, when she ate the fruit of the Shinju tree, she was given access to the Rinne Sharingan, and I still haven't explained what the Rinne Sharingan is. Well, it's actually surprisingly just like what you'd expect, just a blend between the Rinnegan and the Sharingan. It has the visual prowess of the Sharingan and the abilities of the Rinnegan. There is one key ability that the Rinne Sharingan gives a person access to, and that is the ability to cast the infinite Tsukuyomi on the moon. Since it is reflected on the moon, the infinite Tsukuyomi is a genjutsu that will trap everybody across the planet inside of it. The only way to resist it is to have a Rinnegan yourself, but considering how hard I explained it is to acquire one, that probably won't be an issue for somebody casting the infinite Tsukuyomi. And aside from that, there really isn't anything else to talk about. I think I've covered pretty much everything. There is the matter of how certain Rinnegan look different from others, but I mean, there's not really much to discuss there. Sasuke's has Tomo,
I think it's just aesthetics.
6 paths are just purple, Momoshiki's is red, but that's about all there is to...
Until he absorbs Ishiki, then it turns yellow. Or at least it did in the anime. And I think in the original movie, they still... Actually, I think in the original movie, they went back to being purple. Like the regular Rinnegan that we've seen originally with Pain.
Say about it. So, that said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If there's anything I missed, don't hesitate to let me know in the comments below. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. If you have any requests for topics you'd like me to cover in future videos like this, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I will see if I can get to it sometime in the near future. This has been Swagkage. I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you guys next time. Swagkage out. Bye.
Okay, I think that's it. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, so yeah, that was a lot of information. And again, when he went over that, it again, once again, reminds you just all of the insane abilities that are afforded to anyone with the Rinnegan. And again, it does kind of suck that because I think like it's been established that the Rinnegan in the fandom, at least by the fandom, that the Rinnegan is pretty fucking powerful, and it's insane. Like the only time we've ever seen its abilities fully utilized, or at least the 6 paths abilities fully utilized, was with Pain. And the thing is, like, later on we never see anyone with the Rinnegan fully utilize those abilities. At least we saw them a little bit with Obito when he, you know, was controlling the... Sorry if you can hear that, I don't know what's going on outside. We saw with Obito when he was fully utilized the 6 paths, when he basically did what Nagato did with the 6 paths of Pain. He did it with the Jinchuriki of the previous 7-tailed beasts. And other than that, when it comes to Sasuke, we see him, the only time we see him utilize abilities that are different than the Amino Tejikara, you know, his space-time abilities, it was the, we saw him use Chibaku Tensei twice, I think, when he captured the 9-tailed beast and during their fight with Momoshiki. At least in the anime. He didn't do it in the movie, I don't think. Yeah, no, he didn't do it in the movie. And one thing that another time that I can think of is when he used Bansho Tenin, or Universal Pull, in his fight with Naruto. Although even that was anime only, he didn't use it in the manga. And in the manga he did use the Preta Path, the ability to absorb the ability to absorb chakra. He used it in his fight with Naruto near the end in order to absorb the chakra that the tailed beast gathered for him, and or tailed beast Kurama. I don't know why I said tailed beast. And other than that, I'm trying to think what other instances did he use a Rinnegan's ability other than just the space-time ninjutsu and Chibaku Tensei and Bansho Tenin. Yeah, I don't think we've never seen him use Universal Pull. We've never seen him utilize the abilities of the Animal Path. We rarely ever see him utilize the ability of the Naraka Path, which I think would be insanely useful, and not to mention the Ashura Path. Dude, like the Rinnegan affords you so many abilities that would be so useful, and it kind of sucks that it seems like now we'll never see, definitely now we'll never see Sasuke use them ever again, because again, by the time I'm recording this, the newest chapter is about to come out, and I don't know what the hell's going to happen there, and I don't know if they're going to address it, but it seems like Sasuke now officially doesn't have his Rinnegan anymore, and it seems like we'll never see him utilize those abilities. So it kind of sucks. I mean, if the plan was always to have him, like, if you were really planning to get rid of his Rinnegan all this time, are you telling me you couldn't have, at the very least during this last fight, have him utilize its full abilities? Instead, he just gets mollywopped all over, and then Naruto has that fucking asshole Baryon mode that just came out of thin fucking air. It kind of sucks. It really does suck. And again, we know why. We know the real reason why. It's because of plot, okay? If someone out there tries to tell you that, oh, well, it's because of chakra or whatever, no, it's complete bullshit. It's them just trying to justify whatever is happening. But in reality, and I'm pretty sure even they know this, it's because the plot needed it to happen. That's it. It's as simple as that. So I'm just going to end this video right here. Guys, thank you so much for watching to the end, as always. And remember, look forward to more Swagkage reaction videos in the future. And not just Swagkage, like I said, I do plan to react to videos made by other creators. And if you guys have your own videos that you would like me to watch by other creators that focus on, anime and manga, not just with Naruto or Dragon Ball Super, just any series whatsoever, if you guys want me to watch it and react to it on this channel, just link it in the description box down below, or if you want, you can follow the link in the description box down below. You'll be able to donate to the channel and leave a link to that video. And if you do it that way, it will 100% guarantee that your video definitely gets reacted to, and as soon as possible. So with all that said out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching. And again, please remember to stay safe and take care of yourselves. And please join me for the next video. Bye for now.